This is Sam with IT. We're live. You guys can go ahead.
We're live.
Good evening and welcome to the June 8th meeting of the Westfield, Washington Township Board of Zoning Appeals. Please note the presence of a quorum.
Ms. Fortier.
Here.
Mr. Kingshill.
Here.
Mr. Schmitz.
Here.
Mr. McCarty.
Here.
Mr. Buller.
Here.
We have quorum.
So just for the record, Dave Schmitz is with us, but virtually. Hi, Dave.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Okay, let's move on to approval of the minutes from our May 11th meeting. We've all had an opportunity to review those minutes. Are there any comments or questions or amendments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the June minutes.
Second?
We have a motion to approve by Janine Fortier.
Can I
Second.
take that back? It's for the May minutes. Sorry. I make a motion to approve the May minutes, not June.
Thank you. And the second by, and so we have a motion by Janine Fortier, second by Victor McCarty.
Thank you.
Are we doing those by roll call these days? Or can I do it by voice? Roll call. Oh, it has to be voice.
It has to be voice because Mr. Schmidt is virtual.
Really?
Roll call.
Oh, it has to be roll call.
Roll.
Yeah.
Sorry. Because it's virtual.
Okay.
I'll wake up, forgive me.
All
Well,
right,
we
let's
could.
call the roll, please.
All right. Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Kingshill.
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to reviewing the rules and procedures.
Yes, due to the COVID-19 emergency as declared by the Governor of Indiana, the format and conduct of the meeting has been modified to comply with executive orders regarding the conduct of public meetings, public hearings, and public gatherings. Relevant portion of the Indiana open door law have been amended or suspended during the pendency of the emergency. For the items requiring public hearing, tonight's meeting has the following structure. The department will summarize the petition. The petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the board. The president will open a public hearing. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to the board members. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments, and the board will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. For the items that do not require a public hearing this evening, the department will summarize the petition and highlight any changes or modifications since the item was last before the board. The department will also describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. The petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present any changes, and the board will then act upon the petition. For the rules of conduct this evening, please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you have to have a private conversation, then we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time, but if you must answer them, please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regard to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, then please fill out a yellow card. They're in the up here in the back, up here and in the back this evening. Once the public hearing is opened by the president, please provide us your yellow card as you approach the podium. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and we ask that you not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you will be advised when there's approximately 30 seconds remaining. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will be forwarded to the board members and the petitioner. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Also, please mute your microphone when not speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to items of business. First item is 2105-SE-01 and 2105-VS-12, 17319 Joliet Road, the Chris Center.
Thank you, members of the board. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening for your consideration, we have a special exception and variance request for an agritourism facility on 6.62 acres in the AGSF1 district located at 17319 Joliet Road. The special exception would permit an agritourism use as described in the petitioner's application packet, and the requested variance of development standard would exempt the property from the development plan requirement of the Unified Development Ordinance. This item was last before you in May, where a public hearing was held. Since that time, the petitioner has met with some of the neighbors and provided a summary of that meeting, which is listed on the agenda as Exhibit 6. If the board is inclined to approve the petition, then the department recommends including the conditions noted in the staff report as supplemented by the proposed conditions exhibit provided at this meeting. I do have the petitioner, Nancy Elbert, who is available to make some comments as well as answer any questions you may have of her, and I'm available if you have any questions of the department. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Elbert. Go ahead and state your name and your address.
Thank you.
So go ahead and tell us what's happened since the last time we were here.
So, yes, we sat down with, the neighbors that had special concerns were not the neighbors that we had sent the letters out to, but we want to work with them by all means and make sure that we satisfy all their concerns. And so I did sit down with them, also spoke with the neighbor across the street, and he's very supportive. They came up with a list, which I think we came together with and met almost everything that they felt had concerns with, and that's listed in that Exhibit 6 that she said. And we feel pretty good about it, so.
Great. So we have been presented with what looks like a list of proposed conditions, correct?
Oh, you bet.
Correct.
Looks like 9 conditions here. And we also have some comments from the public, and they don't look to be exactly the same. Looks to me like they're substantially similar, pretty close.
Pretty close.
So I just wanted to be sure that we have sort of a consensus between you and the concerned neighbors. One of the things I noticed on the manure treatment, you've indicated on item number 3, manure will not be spread on sites.
Right, the new update was in, was this one, Pam, is that Exhibit 6?
This is the one I sent you at the end of the day. So this one that I emailed you.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one. Is it my email?
Yeah, and you replied to it, but this is the,
Okay.
Are we maybe not looking at the latest?
you are, yes.
We are.
Okay. Oh, it's almost, it's exactly like mine, only you typed it up differently.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we worded it a little bit differently. She had
Got it.
suggested manure be hauled off by a trash service. We, the department, would prefer the language of manure not be spread on site. That seemed to be more in line with the neighbors' concerns, and that is also something that would be more easily enforced by us. Proving who, well, for one, whether a trash service or does someone just need to haul it away would be a question. And also, if the complaint was that manure is being spread on site, we could bring someone who would be able to tell us whether or not that's occurring from Hamilton County Soil and Water Surveyor's Office, who could come on site and say, manure's been spread here, they're in violation.
Okay, so your intent is to have it hauled away?
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
Good. The other item I noticed that was different was maybe the hours of operation. It looked like the neighbors had asked for more restrictive hours, but in terms of having help and things, they're working with the
Yeah.
animals and such, you probably need the more expansive hours.
Right, we actually got a call, I think yesterday, from one of them saying that the expanded hours were okay, and what that meant is that you have somebody there taking care of the animals early in the morning, the teenagers or the members won't be there. And then somewhere between 2:30 and 8:30 is what we're looking at. They originally said 3:30. Again, if we just put the whole bucket in there, 8:30 to 8:30, that covers the animal care and the teens and the programming. But more than likely, teens will be in school. There's some that, that get out a little earlier, and 2:30 would work for them. That's why we had changed it to the expanded, to make sure that's the animal care is in there as well.
Okay.
And then staff would be on site.
Yeah, and I can confirm that we also got a call from one of the neighbors who had sent the comment after the neighbor summary was posted, stating that they had told her they were okay with the expanded hours as well, and had actually suggested it to her at one point.
Okay, and the, following all setbacks and permits, et cetera, that would encompass the distance between the animals and the neighboring residential structures and such? That's the normal standard within the UDO, I think?
So you're referring to the stable standard?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So that standard is within our accessory building chapter. So it only comes into play if the stable is an accessory to another use on the property. When the stable's the primary use, that standard does not actually come into play, and only the zoning district standards apply. So that would not encompass that standard. If you wanted to pull that standard in, that could be done, which that does also allow for a reduced setback with the adjacent property owner's permission. So that would be a possibility, but as it's written now, the setbacks that would be required are the setbacks of the AGSF1 district, which is 30 feet from a side property line.
And this location where you are going to put this stable, is this an issue? Are we greater than 200 feet away, or? are
No,
we
there's
with-
plenty of room
Yeah.
to put it in there, yeah.
Yeah, she would be fine for the 200 feet from another dwelling. The issue would come into play with the 150 feet from any property lines. So as proposed on the site plan, she's looking at being approximately 50 feet from the north property line, which is a access easement drive, but it is still the nearest property line where that
and
100-foot
what's-
setback.
And what's on the other, I don't know what direction we're looking at, to the right of this property? So
So that would be another drive here with a house to the south of that. So they could potentially meet 150 feet from this property line, from the road property line, but as proposed, from the north property line would not comply.
but there's nothing there.
Correct. The house on that property is behind them, and they would be well over 100 feet from that as proposed.
So if someone were to build over there closer, they're building with the knowledge of what you're doing.
Correct.
Okay, I'm not concerned then with that distance. Okay, any other questions from any of the other board members? Dave? No, go ahead.
Just briefly, just kind of clarification before a motion is made. Would we, whomever, read the recommended conditions in the staff report, or these as the recommended conditions for approval?
I think this would be added to what's in the staff report.
Okay.
So the staff report recommends different conditions for the two different, for one for the variance of use and the other one for the special exception, variance of standard and the special exception. And so I think we have to add, you would have to add a reference to these.
Yes, and the proposed conditions for the special exception do reference this exhibit.
Oh,
The first one, that the approval be limited to the operations as described in the proposed conditions
Okay.
exhibit that will be provided at the meeting.
good. Jenny, do you want to be heard at all? We don't, we've had a public hearing on this.
Correct, at the last
Um,
meeting.
I just want to ask Jenny, as being sort of the leader of the neighbor group, if,
I'd be happy. Could you put those up again, because we haven't seen these? The ones that they drafted. Jenny Kelleher, 3920 West 166th Street, Westfield, Indiana. I think they're pretty much in line with what we talked about. The only, and I know some other people wrote letters, but I haven't seen those. I'm just trying to coordinate this as much as anything. The hours of operation, we had actually suggested they make those longer, so that's not a problem. I think the only one that we might have issue with, and it's maybe just the way it's worded, not the intent, is that following the noise ordinance, because our noise ordinance is really for pretty loud noises, and we are concerned with outdoor speakers, amplification of music. That was it. So I don't know if that's something they're willing to allow to add, because our noise ordinance out there wouldn't be very effective. They can play pretty loud music and it carries pretty far. I think that's really the only thing I have issue with. Other people may have written other things, but as a general policy, I think we're pretty good with all of it, except maybe adding something a little stronger for the noise ordinance if they're willing to do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
When I was there a couple weeks ago, and the guy across the street has a loud speaker of music outside his cute little barn. And so, you know, we won't restrict teens to have music outside in their boom boxes and things like that. I can't imagine why we would want amplified music out there, but that's why that ordinance is kind of written in that way, so that kids can have their music, you know, if they've got a little boom box or their little phone, and that's why we kept it. But we don't intend to do big old speakers, music out there.
So when you have events, that might be an outdoor event, you're not gonna, you probably are not going to have amplified music or a master of ceremonies or someone.
Yeah, if we have like an outdoor little speaker that we can talk to the group maybe, but I know Pam had written in there that when we have special events there would have to be temporary use and event permits would be required, and so I'm assuming that would come down in that.
Would those permits, this is directed to the staff, cover the noise ordinance or the noise issue at all?
We don't necessarily do a noise review during a temporary use permit, but any events are still expected to follow the noise ordinance. For this site, that would be the county's ordinance, as they're not annexed into the city of Westfield, and the noise ordinance is a municipal ordinance and not a zoning ordinance, with limited exceptions for performance standards, really more related to industrial type uses. So that's why we've listed it as city and county. Could be city in the future, you never know, but is not now, so.
Is the city's noise ordinance more restrictive than the county's ordinance?
I'm not sure I've looked into that, but I can look at that. Or if she's amenable to adding something else, we can do that as well.
I would think we would follow whatever the residential zoning ordinances are, what the noise, the sound ordinance are. I don't know what that is, but we're going to be in compliant with that. Again, we have no intentions of having outdoor speakers with loud music. I don't want to scare the donkeys.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that
Yeah.
you don't want to, the animals that get spooked
No.
easily by loud noises.
Right.
So maybe the extreme that you guys might go is a kid will come out with their acoustic guitar and just, do something like that, but.
I see what
Yeah.
you mean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, this is a calm, gentle place is
Yeah.
our vision. Yeah.
Ginny, you have a comment?
I believe.
Come forward, you know better than that.
I believe that they're going to be quiet, but we don't have a residential noise ordinance. Our noise ordinance is for industrial. And I think you all know that Urban Vines supposedly follows the noise ordinance. And subdivisions 2 and 3, subdivisions away say when the noise is playing, they hear it and it's loud. So I don't think they intend to do that. And we don't care if they're a boom box. That's not the point. This is big, loud speakers, that bands have. That's what we like to say, because our noise ordinance talks about big, major industrial noises, and it really doesn't apply to residential. So I
think I'm okay with putting amplified, I don't want you to call them speakers. I'm okay with that, because this is a care farm with animals, and so we're not there to have rock concerts in any way.
The concern, I think, really is just hypothetically, if you were to sell the business to somebody else,
Right.
someone else came in and did this, a similar use, that you could then, or that they could.
They could.
Be doing something like this. So you don't intend to do it, but
Right.
would it be okay to add that into this list of restrictions, just to protect us from the next person down the line
Yeah.
that might do it.
As long as we're protected, if a teenager does have music on his phone, or if they're playing a guitar, and those kind of complaints, to make sure that we're compliant with that.
And that's
We
a
don't wanna
problem
get
with our
it-
noise ordinance. It's hard to objectively sort of quantify noise.
Yeah, it is, you're right, yeah.
Would it be sufficient to just say and not use amplified devices? Because I mean, I wouldn't put phones or boom boxes into that
Or a guitar would
category
be
of
okay as long
guitar.
as it's not amplified.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
I think the problem is technically, based on definitions, that is an amplified
Yeah.
device.
Yeah,
Okay.
if your iPhone to another speaker is probably amplified, or
And I, yeah.
to
I see
Alexa,
what you mean.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, and just
my
for,
inclination is that we leave it as it is.
And we'll be-
Just because
yeah.
the noise, we're gonna follow the noise ordinances, even though they're residential ordinance, whatever we throw in here is gonna be too hard to enforce, I think. Dave, do you have any opinion on this? Dave Schmitz, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm struggling with the same thing of trying to figure out a way to word that. I agree with what you're saying, that it's, if we don't have an ordinance that's on point, then, yeah, I mean, even if we had an ordinance that applies to a different district, we could make this apply to that, but it doesn't sound like we really have one that's on point for what the neighbors are concerned about and what the petitioner is willing to do.
How about if, it does, these conditions do say that you will comply with all noise ordinances per the city and county rules. And that's for noise ordinances that are currently on the books and anything in the future. And so
Correct.
I think it's really incumbent on the city to get out there. I mean, we did this in response to some of the things that were going on at Urban Vines, where we tried to quantify the noise ordinance, and we had Noah Heron out there with us, and he was kind of the one that was sort of leading the charge, and maybe that's the fox guarding the hen house a little bit in that regard. But maybe, I think it's really incumbent on the city to nail down the noise ordinance and have something that would apply in a situation like this, rather than trying to impose it on this particular petitioner at this time.
and just one thing, if we amend our municipal noise ordinance, that will not, well, I guess that's a good argument, I don't know. If we're saying she'll comply with city and county rules, can we enforce that if she's not in city limits, or is it only if it's applicable legally? If we put it in our UDO, it would apply to her, because we have jurisdiction over the township in our zoning ordinance, but our municipal code and the police are the ones who enforce the noise ordinance, so I don't know that they could come,
Can she
I don't know if they'd have
voluntarily
jurisdiction or if it would just be the county.
Yeah, but we can't, she can't voluntarily make herself subject to the city's noise ordinance as opposed to the county's noise ordinance.
She can, but it will then become an
Can't enforce it.
enforcement issue. Your police won't, if your police aren't going into the area to enforce it, she can do it, but it's a matter of, she just put it on paper and now there's no enforcement mechanism.
Yeah,
by having the provision of 4 large events per year, limiting it to that, does that kind of take care of itself a little bit, though? Because, we're addressing a problem with Urban Vines where they have music basically every week and so forth. And, that's not going to be the case here. So if there are large events, then some things will have to be for approval. And when it comes to if they're no longer using the property in the future, then that will be the same case of limiting them to the 4 events. Because I would classify if, any band or whomever comes out to Urban Vines every week, those are events because the parking lot's filled every week.
Sure,
So it'd be
well,
a different case scenario over there.
I don't think we're worried about her. We're worried about.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, the worst-case scenario is that 4 times during the year, there could be amplified noise out there. And this limit to 4 events would apply to a potential future user as opposed to this user, correct?
Correct,
It would limit them as well.
yes.
So, yeah, I think our worst-case scenario here is that 4 times a year, there's music that the neighbors might not like.
And I
So
think it said by
I
10,
think
yeah.
we're creating a problem where we don't really need to, is my opinion.
Don't want to make it overcomplicated, so, yeah.
All right, any other discussion or questions or comments? Dave, you have anything more?
No, as long as everybody's comfortable with that, it seems to me that the electronics thing, personal electronics is not a problem. But amplified music for entertainment purposes is. So if anyone feels the need to go any further, it could be in that number 2. Amplified music shall not be used for entertainment purposes at any other time during the year. Then basically, if somebody's sitting around cranking a boombox with 15 people sitting around, that'd be a problem any other time of the year. But personal use, I don't know. It's a definitional challenge any way you look at it. So the answer to your question is no. I think I'm okay as is. I think we know what we want and what the petitioner wants, and there is just some gray area there.
All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, any further discussion?
Dave, can you mute your mic?
Yep.
All right, I'd entertain a motion.
And just an FYI, we'll be doing two motions, one for the special
Yes,
session and-
2 separate motions.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Who wants to tackle that?
Oh, gosh. Oh, thanks.
Victor.
Well, that's why I made the clarification question earlier, because I didn't know how much I'd have to read. Okay, so with the just to again clarify, with the recommended conditions I'm looking at in the staff report, does that only apply for when I read the one motion for 2105 SE1, or should I also restate those for VS-12?
There are separate ones listed for the BS on
There
a,
are?
yeah, on a subsequent
So
page.
page 5 at the bottom is for SE.
For SE?
Yeah, so
Okay.
start with that one.
Okay, I'll just start there. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve 2105-SE-01, the Chris Center on Joliet Road, with the recommended conditions that the approval be limited to the operations as described in the proposed conditions exhibit that will be provided here tonight. And 2, the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
I'll second it.
Okay, so is that condition number 1 specific enough to this document that we can, it says, as described in the proposed conditions exhibit that will be provided at the meeting, is that specific enough to this document? Well, it says Exhibit E on the next page,
Yeah.
which looks like something else. It's more of a description of what the business
Yeah, that's-
is. Exhibit A, I'm sorry.
That's a supplement to
That's a
the
supplement.
page as described on number 1, so
It's not titled,
it's
it's
not
not marked as an
labeled.
exhibit. So I think we should mark it as an exhibit. Where does it say Exhibit 5? Oh,
it will be recorded with the acknowledgement of variance, and we can also post it to the agenda tomorrow morning.
I just want to be sure that we can enforce this document.
Yeah.
So as long as the motion we just made is specific enough that this is the document we're talking about, and it's clear, and it's recorded, then we'll be good, right? Yes. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve 2105-SE-01. Motion by Victor McCarty, second by Jeff Bowler. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the staff's recommended findings of fact.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion made by myself, seconded by Janine Fortier. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll entertain a motion on the variance of development standard, which is VS 12.
And now I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve 2105-VS-12, also for the Chris Center on Joliet Road, with the following recommended conditions: that 1, the approval shall be limited to the use permitted by special exception 2105 SE-01. 2, that the approval be limited to A, the building shown in the proposed building exhibit, Exhibit 4, B, any future non-vertical improvements for the use permitted by special exception 2105-SE-01, and C, any future accessory buildings as defined in the Unified Development Ordinance for the use permitted by the special exception 2105-SE-01. Number 3, that this approval shall not apply to any future principal buildings as defined in the UDO. Number 4, that the petitioner comply with the lighting standards of the UDO, Article 6.9 inclusively. And number 5, that the petitioner obtain any and all necessary approvals from the applicable city and county departments, including but not limited to the Westfield Fire Department, Westfield Public Works Department, Hamilton County Surveyor's Office, Hamilton County Highway Department, and, oh, there's more. I'm always taking one for the team. And Hamilton County Health Department prior to issuance of any improvement location permit for the property. And 6, the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the Hamilton County Recorder's Office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Community Development Department.
I second that.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion to approve by Victor McCarty, second by Jeff Bowler. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the staff's recommended findings of fact.
And I will second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Kingshill,
Yes.
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I think that takes care of it. Thank you. And thank you to everybody for getting together and working that out. That's how we like to see it.
Really excited to have you in the community.
All right, moving on to the next item of business, 2106-VS-20, Hunt Estates.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard to modify the minimum lot size from 3 acres to 2.72 acres on a parcel on the east side of Anthony Road, approximately a quarter mile north of State Road 38. The real estate that is being asked to be reduced effectively is the amount required dedicated for the right-of-way along Anthony Road. This item has been properly noticed and advertised, and Nathan Althouse of Miller Surveying is present to provide a brief presentation on behalf of the petitioner, after which he will be available for questions, and so will I as member of staff. Thank you.
There we go. Hi, I'm Nathan Althouse with Miller Surveying. Our office is located at 948 Connor Street, Noblesville, Indiana. I'm here to represent the Hunt Family Farm in this request, this variance request. So basically what we're trying to do is just carve out 3 acres at the southwest corner of the farm so Keith Hunt can gift it to his daughter to build their family home and raise their kids there, her children. So when we started the process, it'd be pretty easy, right? just to cut 3 acres out. So then, now we have to do a plat, so we're also doing a minor plat. And so, the way there's 3 brothers, and it's kind of an estate planning thing, where the brothers, when they were old enough, they got 3 acres to build their house, and now the daughters got 3 acres to build their house. And they want to keep this a farm as much as possible. Dedicating that right away is like killing them, right? So just giving the land away, right? So when we do we want to do 1 lot plat. So the way the subdivision ordinance is we have to make the remaining lot part of the plat, which is the 82 acres. And so we'd have to dedicate that thoroughfare right away, the whole length of the property, which is 1,300 feet. So that was a deal breaker for the brothers, at least 2 of them. And so what we did was we took this and got a waiver from the county commissioners and took it into the county commissioners and said, okay, we'll dedicate the right-of-way for the 3 acres, but we're not developing anything on the main, Westfield's making us put this 2 lot in, the second lot in here. We don't want to do it. That's just part of the process. So they granted us the waiver where as long as they're not developing lot 2, we don't have to dedicate any of that right-of-way that's on lot 2. So we got that. And so then we put the plat back together and without that right-of-way and calling it future right-of-way. And so now that parcel that's coming out of the farm is a 3-acre parcel, but then once we dedicate the thoroughfare right-of-way, which we are going to dedicate it as part of the plat, it makes lot number 1 only 2.72 acres. And that's, we're here asking for a variance because the lot's not going to be 3 acres.
So this question, I guess, is for staff. So the 3-acre requirement is a net 3-acre requirement?
Yeah, so it
In
would
the
be,
AGSF one?
be post right-of-way dedication. Yeah, the acreage does not include the right-of-way.
Okay. All right, well, I had questions as to why we were doing all this.
Right.
But
And I
now
realize
I understand, I guess. And
it's really kind of an estate thing that's,
they don't want to,
because they can gift the 3 acres. If it's more than that, then there's money involved, there's different things involved and different people. And, I mean, it's all family, but it's
sure.
whatever.
All right, well, I have no objection to it. Anybody, any comments? Dave, anything? Did you get all that?
Yeah, no, I don't have any objection. It sounds like that although there's the right-of-way is being carved out, it really has no meaningful value. It can't be used until there's right-of-way upstream from it, north of it. So as a practical matter, it's going to live like a 3-acre parcel until there's future development. So I don't have an issue, and it's not much acreage anyway. So I'm fine with it.
All right, we have to have a public hearing on this.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:38. Any comments, any comment cards?
We have no cards.
Any electronic indication that there's anyone out there that wants to speak to this?
No emails at this time.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this matter? Seeing none? Do we need to wait a minute to see if anything comes online, or can I close the hearing? Should we wait just in case? Or call at 7:39? All right, I'm going to close the hearing at 7:39. We're living in the future. No, we're not. It's okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept 2106-VS-20 with the, which is the Hunt Estates, with the recommended conditions that the property be developed in substantial compliance with the Exhibits 3 and 4 accompanying this petition, and that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy of that recorded instrument to the Economic and Community Development Department.
Not so easy, is it? I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff Bowler, for that motion, and thank you, Victor McCarty, for the second. Please call roll.
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Mr. Kingshill.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt the staff's recommended findings of fact.
And I will second.
Thank you. Have a motion by myself, second by Janine Fortier. Please call the roll.
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Kingshill.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, we have item number 2106-VS-21, 3750 Brookdale Drive.
Yes. Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard proposed to encroach 10 feet into the minimum rear yard setback on .32 acres to accommodate a swimming pool and deck at 3750 Brookdale Drive in the Brookside subdivision. The project has been properly noticed and advertised. The staff has received no public comments, and this has received HOA approval, as proof being the exhibit that has been provided to you this evening for that. Jamie Gates Mills, the property owner, should be virtually present for questions, but does not plan to make a presentation, and I will be available if there are questions of staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, looking at the location map, it looks like this is another one of those with the water feature directly behind the property, and so there really is no neighbor that would be impacted by this encroachment. And we've got the approval by the HOA. So I don't have any issues with this one at all. Anybody else have any comments? Dave, anything from you?
No, I agree exactly with what you said.
All right, thank you. So I better hold a public hearing. So I'll open the public hearing at 7:42. Do we have any comment cards?
No cards and also no emails.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this matter? Seeing none, I'll assume.
Seeing no audience members.
I'm sorry, seeing no audience members. For the record, I will close the public hearing at 7:43. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make the motion to approve 2106-VS-21, 3750 Brookdale Drive, with two conditions: that the property be developed in substantial compliance with Exhibit 4, and that the petitioner shall record an acknowledgement of this approval with the county recorder's office and return a copy of the recorded instrument to the Economic and Community Development Department.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve by Janine Fortier, second by Jeff Bowler. Please call the roll.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes, I wasn't prepared to be first, yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Kingshill.
Yes.
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the staff's recommended findings of fact.
I'll second.
All right, motion by myself, second by Victor McCarty. Please call the roll.
Mr. Schmitz.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Kingshill.
Yes.
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And that takes care of all of our items of business. And it pretty much takes care of our agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Anyone?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Janine Fortier, second by Victor McCarty. We don't have to have a roll call for that, do we? Looks like we do. Please
Yeah.
call the roll.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Ms. Fortier.
Yes.
Mr. Kingshill.
Yes,
Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
And Mr. Schmitz.
he's already gone.
Schmitty?
Well, it carries 4-1 anyway.
All right.
4-0.
We're adjourned. There we go, all right.
There he is.
5-0.
All right. All right, thanks, Dave. We'll see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.